Yeah, let's roll.
Oh yes, here it is, episode 0, 10, 31, 17. My name is Clay. I'm here with the Chief himself. We want to welcome you to the Third Thoughts podcast. I'm feeling it today, Chief. I'm in the zone.
I feel good today.
I'm in the zone. You in the zone?
I'm in the zone.
I like that. Maybe it's Halloween. Maybe I'm just got a little extra energy from the cold weather. I've eaten a lot of candy.
The only
already.
negative thing that could happen was we're in the zone, but it's like the red zone, and we're Florida State offense.
Jeez, don't start there. Let's start at a high note, okay? Come on. This is the first episode. We're going to start on that note.
Yeah, roll us in here, man. Let us
Okay.
know. Let us
All
know
right.
what's going on.
Listen, I want to welcome everybody to the podcast. This is a new experiment for me and for the Chief. We are just here hanging out. This is episode 0, so I kind of want to share what we're about first, and then I'll get into the links and we'll get into the actual content. But listen, if you're listening live, if you're listening later, whatever you're doing, this is an experiment. This is not a perfectly polished product by any means. But basically what happens is me and the Chief work at a church, and we work in the office every day together. And often we talk about anything and everything, whatever's going on, current events. We like sports. We talk about sports. We talk about football mainly, but all sports. We see things on Twitter and we share them. We watch YouTube videos sometimes and share them. And we would have these conversations. And these conversations would end up being, I think, pretty interesting. I think some of the most profound things we say kind of happen spontaneously. So as this was happening, I kind of got into podcasts recently. And so I've been listening to different people do it. And it seems like, and maybe the people I watch are just extremely good, but it seems like it doesn't take that much effort. Maybe they just make it look easy. Yeah. But I thought, you know what? We can do that. So we got some microphones. We rigged together a little mixer, and we got on Spreaker and bought a little subscription, and here we are.
Here we are.
So we wanted to capture it spontaneously, so that's why it's live. So we hope you'll join in with us, and we hope you're here with us, and feel free to chat in there if you're listening on Spreaker. If you're listening on anywhere else, this will be uploaded after the episode is finished, and it'll be on iTunes. It'll be on SoundCloud. It will be on a variety YouTube, on a variety of other places. I want to let you know you can find us anywhere on the net with the name Third Podcast. So our Twitter @Third Podcast, Instagram @Third Podcast, email if you want to shoot us an email, if you still do that, it's thirdpodcast@gmail.com. At Spreaker is Spreaker.com/show/third-thoughts. That's a lot.
That's a lot of special characters.
Mm-hmm. It is. But see, Spreaker is really cool, and I'm shouting out to Spreaker. I know we pay them for this, but I'm shouting out anyway. If you're looking to start a podcast, Spreaker's the way to go. It's really excellent, really slick interface. Also, I set this up because I believe in you, the listener, and I believe in the content we're bringing you, and I believe in this being bigger than we dreamed. So I set up a Patreon page. If you don't know what Patreon is, it's a crowdfunding system, and it allows you to make our content better by donating cash. So patreon.com/thirdpodcast. You can pledge. You can be a monthly pledge. You can be a one-time pledge. You can make it happen. You can see some goals we have and some things we'd like to do and like to have. So we just want to make it a better experience for you. So think about that. If you enjoy listening, if you enjoy what you're hearing, if you want us to do more, please go to the Patreon and make it happen. Also, I want to thank bensound.com for our opener music. That's royalty free, but he said I had to credit him. So Ben Sound, thank you.
Now, wait a minute. If it's royalty free, isn't just mentioning him some type of royalty?
I mean, it's exposure, but it's not royalties in cash.
Not in cash, but it could be monetized because of this shout out.
I suppose, but I don't mind it. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's not the song I wanted to use, but it's okay.
Yeah, well, we might get in legal trouble with the song you wanted to use.
Right.
So, anyway, that is the episode 0 part of episode 0. Now, I want to get right into it, Chief.
Let's go.
Topics of the week. We're getting right down to the nitty-gritty, the meat of Third Thoughts. So, the first thing going on, and everybody's hearing about it. Everybody's talking about it. The Mueller investigation on the Russia collusion. We got some indictments. We got some admissions of guilt. We got some pleading not guilty. We got a lot of stuff going on. And yesterday was a crazy day because those indictments came down the pipe. And if you don't know, it was supposed to be a special prosecutor, the way I understand it. Mm-hmm. If you have a special prosecutor, they prosecute.
Yes.
Like they don't just go into the investigation like, maybe we'll find something. They will find something, even if it's unrelated.
Yes.
And they will prosecute because they're a special prosecutor.
They're not a special investigator.
Correct.
They are a prosecutor.
Correct.
So therefore they're going to find something to prosecute somebody about.
Yep. And so the big one here with this Russia collusion and the Trump campaign is Paul Manafort, who was indicted yesterday on money laundering and conspiracy against the United States.
Correct.
But he pled not guilty.
Correct.
And it looks like the connections are with his Ukraine dealings, which were before the Trump campaign even started. So here you have it. Something probably unrelated. I don't know how deep the web goes. And that's, kind of give me your thoughts there, Chief. Where are you going?
Well, here's the thing. If you're guilty of something like this, you have to plead not guilty. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to admit to money laundering and crimes against the United States. So whether he's guilty or whether he's innocent, it doesn't matter. But the ridiculous part of this is because it was this prosecution, this hunt was launched against the Trump campaign. Mm-hmm. Because it was launched looking for ties to the Trump campaign in Russia, because now there is an indictment that has come down. People are going to just assume that this is tied to the Trump to the Trump campaign.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there is no connection that we know of right now back to the Trump campaign, other than this gentleman at one point worked for Trump.
Yep.
But there is no tie to Donald Trump colluding with Russia. I believe there is much more evidence that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama colluded with Russia, but we're not going to get that from this special prosecutor, because this special prosecutor is in bed with the Obamas and the Clintons.
Jeez. That feels like a call out a little bit.
I'm not ready to make that call out just yet.
Okay, you're going to let it play out?
I'm just going to let it play out.
That's why I think it's wisdom.
But now we do see the GOP. They are demanding for a special prosecutor to be assigned to look into Obama and Clinton. There's a plethora of things that are out there, and everything that happens, Hillary's just saying, "Hey, listen, go buy my book. There's a chapter in my book about that. There's a chapter in my book about Russia. There's a chapter in my book about this. There's a chapter in my book about that." She's trying to sell enough books so that she can fund some designer prison wear while she's in prison.
So, like Gucci Mane was making mixtapes and albums, you think?
Hillary's trying to sell books, yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
I gotcha.
And I would imagine Bill is distancing himself from this as well. If he's smart, Bill will distance himself from Barry Obama and also Hillary. Because this is, if it plays out the way it should, this is going to get real ugly for America's premier leadership. Yeah. It's going to make our country look bad.
Yeah,
it's going to be a black eye. All the hypocrisy is going to be exposed that we have endured as the American people for years and years and years. Listen, democracy is a great thing. Mm-hmm. I believe it is the greatest form of government on the planet. But even democracy itself only works when we elect people that have integrity and have shared values with us. That's the only way democracy works.
Yeah.
And now we're going to see all of this hypocrisy exposed and all of the dirt that's been swept under the rug, and it's going to make us look very bad in the world's eye. And probably we need to look very bad in the world's eye, because for so long we've just simply voted an economic vote rather than a moral vote.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what people stand for or what they're doing, as long as we're not paying more taxes, and as long as the minimum wage is going up and welfare is still strong and thriving.
Yeah, and we think that way. I mean, I think I even find myself thinking that way, that, I mean, okay, there's some bad stuff, some shady stuff going on, but if it's not affecting my bank account, do I really care? And I think that's the question we have to ask ourselves. Where do we draw the line? Where do we say, okay, this doesn't affect my bank account, but it is wrong. So do I stand up here?
Absolutely. And here it is. I'm not trying to preach or anything whatsoever on
Sure.
this, but where our treasure is, there our heart is also.
Mm-hmm.
There's a direct correlation. So our heart is drawn to the thing that brings us financial increase, and if that is not voting, or if that is voting to put someone in office that can benefit us, when we look through history, empires begin to make a downturn at the moment that the people realize they can legislate for themselves by the people they put in office.
Yeah.
Financial increase.
Yeah.
We've already topped the hill, and we're headed down a very slippery, very steep slope. And we better brace ourselves and begin to prepare our grandchildren for the inevitability of the future, and that's that it's not an America that I grew up in. It's not an America that you grew up in. Probably for the first time in any generation in America, our grandkids will have less than what we had instead of more.
Well, and what we've seen throughout history is money runs out.
Absolutely.
And eventually, I mean, morality can only slip so far, and the money runs out, and then what do? You're left with nothing. No moral ground, no financial ground. So, I mean, I don't know. As best as I can remember from all my history classes, that's when wars really start to pop off.
And, we've made some mistakes in that arena as well. We have chosen, and I don't want to go down the whole my whole ideology of warfare, because I think that soon in a podcast in the very near future we'll be able to talk about philosophy of war, because we're probably going to be in a new one.
Well,
we're headed that way with several people, so I'll save that for that time. But if we want to really truly establish ourselves as the prominent power that we used to be, when we go to war, we need to take possession of some things that will help our country.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree.
That's all I'm going to say.
I agree totally.
On that. What have we got next?
Yeah, next we got, well, see, we go from one scandal to another.
Oh, I love scandals.
Yeah, let's move to the West Coast.
Yes.
And, place dear to our hearts, Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
So listen, man, this Hollywood scandal thing is out of control. There's a lot of real creepy sexual assault stuff coming out from a lot of people. The most recent one, Kevin Spacey, right? Netflix even went so far to cancel House of Cards, which is a huge show.
Yes.
I mean, to me, the best I can remember, it was like the Netflix original that kind of set up Netflix originals. I mean, it's a big deal. And they have canceled it only a day or two after this came out, which I think is rather noble of Netflix. But at the same time, it makes me wonder. I mean, I was kind of like a Kevin Spacey fan, he was good. And so you wonder how many people are hiding things. Now, obviously the one that kind of supposedly everyone knew about was Harvey Weinstein.
Sure.
And I want to bring up something. And we were talking about this earlier briefly, but I didn't want to tell you this part because this is super weird. Okay? It's Halloween. Today's Halloween.
Yeah.
Super spooky day, right? I don't have any Halloween effects to launch because I'm not a pro producer yet, so bear with me.
Okay.
But spooky day, here's something spooky. Apparently, and I've watched the clips, and if I had them pulled up, I would play them if we had video capability here, but Family Guy.
Yes.
The show Family Guy.
Yeah.
Seth MacFarlane, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Family Guy had an episode, and I don't remember the date, but before this year at the least.
Right.
Where there's a scene where Stewie runs across the screen and says something to the effect of, he's in the mall or something. He's running and he says, "Help, I just escaped from Kevin Spacey's basement."
Oh.
Now, this aired before this all came out, okay? Here's one better, though. even before the Weinstein stuff had come all the way out, in 2013, Seth MacFarlane, who created Family Guy, was hosting the Oscars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said during a category that it was all female actresses, and they were set up, and he said, "Congratulations, you all don't have to keep pretending that you are attracted to Harvey Weinstein." And everybody laughed.
Right.
Except Seth MacFarlane, who is the comedian, had this real weird, serious look on his face as the crowd is laughing, as if to say, hey, we all know this is actually real.
Right.
I know I'm funny, and I said it jokingly, but you guys shouldn't be laughing that hard because you all know this is really happening. So, I mean, the question really is, when you look at Weinstein, you think, okay, yeah, I believe that. Right. Rich old guy exploiting his power, his money. When you look at Kevin Spacey, somebody who's, to me, relatively, he looks normal. He's
Sure.
pretty good guy. He's a great actor. And then you find out these things from 14 years ago. So how deep do you think this goes? How far down the rabbit hole are we going here?
How bad is the depravity in Hollywood?
I mean, I know it's bad. But, I mean, are you expecting to see this escalate? Are we about to see even more people come out with accusations?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. And the reason is because, you know, the mud has started down the hill.
Yep.
It's only going to pick up momentum.
Yeah.
And what is happening is it has suddenly become cool to come out and make these statements, as if the new Hollywood in crowd will be those who are victims of sexual assault.
Yeah.
And that's the scary thing. And there's going to be a lot of truth that comes out, and there is going to be a lot of accusations that are made that are not true.
Sure.
And where we're at right now, at this point in time, is that accusations carry with them the verdict and assumption of guilt. There is a whole television show canceled based on an accusation. Funny, it's titled House of Cards.
Yeah.
It shows you how delicate this thing is to come down.
Spooky, man, I'm telling you.
I mean, Weinstein, the most powerful man in Hollywood, is his house of cards has fallen around him. First of all, this guy's an animal.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's sick. There are too many accusations for these not to be true about him, and there are some details that seem to be consistent, the way the things happened. So he was a predator that had a very specific way that he approached and attacked, and he's an animal.
Yeah.
With Kevin Spacey, he says he doesn't remember the incident, that he had consumed too much alcohol. Listen, there are some things that group themselves together.
Sure.
There are some issues in society that too much alcohol causes sexual immorality. It opens ourselves up for impaired judgment and all of those things. But it's going to go even deeper than that, and we're going to begin to see some things about Hollywood and the people that we have respected and admired. And it's not just going to be the Harvey Weinstein who have tried to sexually harass or even rape people of the opposite sex, but there's going to be heroes that have come out with same gender attractions. There's going to be some things of people that we hold in very high regard that it's going to come out that they're not who they say they are, because Hollywood is a place where it is the job in Hollywood is to pretend.
Yep.
And people are pretending they're one thing when they're really not. And we're going to see a lot of things exposed. But we also have to be careful because there are other things happening. You know, there are people that are jumping on the bandwagon, acting like they have the high moral ground on this. I'm just gonna call her out by name.
Here it is.
Ellen DeGeneres. I'm calling out Ellen DeGeneres right now.
Ellen, you've been called out by the chief.
You need to come here on the podcast. You need to have a conversation with us, or I'll come on your show. It doesn't matter. But we need to have a conversation, because you talk about this sexual harassment as if you have the higher ground. But yet then the very day that you make this call out on your show about sexual harassment and how wrong it is, you tweet a picture of yourself with your arm around your wife staring down the blouse of Katy Perry. That's hypocrisy at its worst. Is it okay just because she's a lesbian to do that, as if lesbians can't sexually harass another woman? Mm-hmm. So we have to be careful with things like that. Then we also have this incident with what's the funny guy that films the movies here? What's his name?
Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler, yeah. Adam Sandler's on a talk show. He puts his hand on the knee of the actress beside him. She knocks his hand away. He puts his hand back. Now there's a big deal that he sexually harassed this young lady that was on the show, as if he would do that on national television. Even if he had an agenda to do that, would he choose national television in which to do that? What's going to happen is there is going to be such a heightened awareness that there are going to be a lot of things that are not sexual harassment, that were never intended to be sexual harassment, that will be labeled that way because we have a heightened sense of awareness about this particular issue.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen in our country. I don't know where this is going. There is an epidemic. There is a problem in our country. There needs to be a solution. There needs to be conversations had. But we don't know the depth in which all of this goes. But I will tell you, we elected a president. We knew that he was a predator. We knew that he had extramarital affairs, mm-hmm. and we elected him anyway. Mm-hmm. We put Bill Clinton in office, knowing full well what had happened. Mm-hmm. Our president that is in there today, as much as I agree with President Trump on some things, we knew that he had issues with the opposite sex, yet we elected him anyway. Sure. It seems to be that this issue has been looked at and we have turned the other way, and that is what has allowed it to reach epidemic proportions. And now we're in fear, or now we have the potential for this to landslide or to move in the wrong way, so that it's so uncontrollable and innocent people get caught up in it because we didn't get it under control back when we had an opportunity to get it under control. Harvey Weinstein was called out years and years ago, and nothing was done.
Yeah.
Why? Because of his money.
Yeah.
Goes back to the same thing we just talked about.
Sure.
Money.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But tell me this before we move on. How did Seth MacFarlane find these things out? And how does, you know how Simpsons is always like predicting things? The Simpsons always...
Maybe he was a victim.
Perhaps. But here's one better. That's not even about that. Apparently, on an episode that I think aired maybe in 2001, but it was before 9/11, mm-hmm. there was a scene that has since been removed from the reruns in Family Guy, where Stewie's in the airport and he does a show tune to distract TSA as they're putting his bag through the x-ray, right? And he says, I hope Osama doesn't know show tunes, because it was so easy for him to distract the TSA. Mm. And Osama comes on the screen and does a show tune. And this scene was actually aired before 9/11.
Wow.
Real spooky, right?
Yeah, real spooky.
Very Halloween fitting. So anyway, ponder that, I guess, if you're listening. Because those adult cartoons, man, they just have some weird predictions going on. And I don't know how they know that stuff.
No, I mean, it's easy to just say coincidence, but, we don't know for sure.
For sure. There's a bit of a lighter story before we get into one of my favorite segments. But here's a bit of a lighter story. Just give me your thoughts on this really quick. So these two women and their dogs from Hawaii, they go on a trip to Tahiti, right? And it's supposed to last like or something like that. I don't know, 18 days, and then they end up being missing for 5 months.
Right.
And they were just rescued by the Navy. Well, the thing is, now there's this, the story's kind of up in the air because the details don't make any sense. Apparently they had an emergency beacon, but they never felt like they were in danger, so they never activated the beacon. They had cell phones, they had other ways to get in touch, other communication devices, but they apparently all stopped working at the same time, and they still didn't activate the beacon. It's a really weird story, and they're claiming now that the Navy has saved their lives because they've been out there for 5 months. I assume at some point you realize, we're not going to make it.
Right.
But you never activate your emergency beacon when it was supposedly in working order. You had it certified. Everything was going according to plan, right?
And when the Coast Guard had already spotted them and made contact with them, I don't know if you've read this part of the story or not. This has just come out as well.
Uh-huh.
The Coast Guard spotted them and made communication with them according to their charted plan.
Mm-hmm.
1 day off the coast of Tahiti, and they reported that they had no issues and no problem, and that they would be making landfall the next morning. When supposedly they never saw Tahiti, they got lost somewhere in between, and all of their communications devices went out.
Yeah.
But yet the Coast Guard was able to contact them and talk to them on the radio just off the coast of Tahiti, and they told them they would be making landfall in the morning.
And the way I understand it, too, is they passed several islands.
Yes.
And just didn't stop, even though the mast was broken and there were some other issues with the boat, and they just never made landfall. But I guess the whole thing I don't understand is why would you make up things about this story? Why would you lie about this story?
I don't know. Maybe they're just out there cruising around, and they didn't want anybody to know where they were. Suddenly the Navy shows up. They haven't been they've been unaccounted for months.
Mm-hmm.
This is their opportunity for their 15 minutes of fame.
It's working.
So we're lost at sea. We're here. Oh, the Navy saved us. Put us on Good Morning America.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
Okay.
It's not hard to turn on an EPIRB, by the way. It's one switch.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I'm assuming
throw a cup of water on it. It works.
Yeah, it's designed that way.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand. I guess you're right. 15 minutes of fame, but man, just what a weird story, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those poor dogs.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't appear to be starving to me, did they to you?
No. I mean, everybody seems fine. That's what's so weird about it.
Who packs 5 months worth of food and water for an 18-day trip?
Maybe they're just incredibly prepared.
Nobody's that incredibly prepared.
You're probably right. Let's move on to our next segment.
All right.
That was Topics of the Week, if you're listening. Our next segment, I like to call Sweet Tweets.
Sweet Tweet.
Basically, what Sweet Tweets is, I read today's moments on Twitter to the Chief, and we just respond off the cuff. He doesn't know what's coming. I don't even know what's coming. I just pull this up, and we just read it. We respond to it. I got some good ones today. We did a test last week, and it was really bad because Twitter just let me down massively, but they're back.
Yeah.
Twitter is back. Okay? So let me pull this up for you. This is from World News, from HuffPost. A missing lynx named Lilith is believed to be somewhere in the vicinity of Barth Zoo in Wales, but it's on the run. So there's a lynx just out there, just hanging out.
Did it escape from the zoo?
It apparently escaped, from the animalarium. And it's out there just hanging out in Wales, running around. This is not as big of a story as when the tigers got loose here in Georgia.
Right.
But you have to think.
A lynx is not as deadly of an animal.
No.
Much smaller in scale.
Mm-hmm.
But therefore much easier, much harder to spot and to recapture.
Mm-hmm.
Probably what I would do is I would just get some stakes.
Some stakes.
And I would hang them up from trees, and I would just wait.
Yeah.
That's what I would. I'd probably send out a public service announcement saying, "Hey, keep your small children indoors, because we're or take your small children to the zoo because the lynx is not there anymore, so it's safe in the zoo now." and I'd hang some stakes up from trees and just wait for the lynx to come.
See, unfortunately, UK has bad beef, though.
Yeah, here's the thing. Is that really worthy of world news?
I don't know. I
mean, I could call my wife and see if our cat is outside.
Well, he probably is.
So, I mean,
You never know. This stuff just comes up, man. I'm just pulling it up. Pulling it up.
Yeah. What's next?
Let's see. Hillary Clinton might dress up as the president for Halloween.
That'll be the closest she ever gets. The closest she's ever going to get.
Apparently, she joked on NBC that she was going to go as the president for Halloween. And Donald Trump Jr. tweets back, "That's cute. She can borrow my real Donald Trump mask."
Oh. So that means that Hillary and Donnie follow each other on Twitter.
Well, I don't know that he tweeted directly at her.
Oh, okay.
I think he was retweeting the article.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
But that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yes, that would be interesting. And she should probably, just to get used to it, dress up like a prisoner.
So you think all orange would be the best move there?
Yes. Orange is the new black.
That's it.
What's the next one? Just keep them coming, man.
Let's see what we got. Chris Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Familiar with Chris Brown, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you listen to.
I'm 44, not 84.
Well, okay. Chris Brown just dropped a 45-song album.
That's ridiculous.
45 songs, man. How long is that? I mean, that's almost like... Geez, I don't know. A standard album is about an hour, right? With 12 songs.
45-song album?
Mm-hmm.
Were all the songs so bad that he felt he needed to give people quantity because there was no quality?
Perhaps. He's been kind of under the radar for a while. But 45 songs is pretty serious.
Yeah, that's pretty serious. And I'm going to assume that this was probably done at a home studio because he's been off the radar so long. I don't think he could afford studio time to record 45 songs for an album.
I take it you're not a big Chris Brown guy.
No, not a huge Chris
Even
Brown
though
guy.
you know him, like, you're not really into him.
No, not
Okay,
really.
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Here's another one. Fidget spinner costumes are popular this year. Are you surprised, though?
No, a fidget spinner costume? No, I'm not surprised.
I mean, we had to know it was coming.
But I did read something today or yesterday that Queen Elsa,
Mm-hmm.
Moana,
Mm-hmm.
and President Trump costumes,
Mm-hmm.
politically incorrect. You can't wear those.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
But that's... Okay.
I mean, maybe Trump, because the people that are killjoys just hate him.
Okay. I mean, that one I can understand.
Maybe Moana, because she can be seen as an ethnicity.
She's Hawaiian, right?
Yeah, but maybe.
Okay.
I mean, Queen Elsa? I'm not sure why that one is.
I don't either. That seems... I mean, every kid likes Frozen, right?
Right.
No matter where they come from.
Let it go, let it go.
That's it. That's it. So, sweet tweets. I mean, they're kind of letting me down again because these are kind of serious.
Well,
There's one here about... So, apparently, there's a source that says Donald Trump has decided not to run for re-election. What do you make of that?
I wouldn't if I was him.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a good move. I'm sure he misses hanging out, doing whatever he wants.
Well, it's not just that, but listen, he gets a harder time than any president in the history of our country.
Mm-hmm.
The media, it's just insane. But listen, I've got something for you that just popped up, and
Sure, you got something from Chief's Corner.
New York City,
Mm-hmm.
happening right now.
In this moment.
This is happening right now.
Yeah.
Someone in a Home Depot truck has ran down some bikers and got out and has fired at least 15 rounds, and I think there's 2
Yikes.
people dead in New York City. He's in custody now,
Okay.
but they're not sure the exact details. What in the world is happening to society?
I don't know. That sounds eerily similar to those attacks in London and France.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. This is what something like this is in the news every single day.
Yeah.
There's a shooting. There's somebody running over people with cars. It's insane what's happening. I'm just completely confused by it. But I do have something on a lighter note from the Chiefs corner that I would like to bring up because I found this absolutely fascinating. And then we're going to get to sports and wrap up the cast for today. But there is a new planet that has been found. Mm-hmm. It's Kepler 13AB. And the special thing, it's like 1,700 light years away.
That's far. If you're listening, you don't know, that's pretty far.
Yeah, that's far away. But the cool thing is that every single day on Kepler 13AB,
it rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
It snows sunscreen.
Snows sunscreen.
Yes. The atmosphere is made up of titanium dioxide.
Okay.
One of the chief ingredients in sunscreen. And it's so hot because the planet doesn't spin, so the same side of the planet faces the sun at all times. So the titanium dioxide gets heated up to high temperatures. The wind blows it around to the night side. Mm-hmm. It forms into clouds, and when it comes back around, it snows sunscreen.
Jeez, man. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what we find in outer space.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and here all this time I just figured, sunscreen was just
you can
just
go
a
there.
lab creation.
No, you can go there and ski in snow screen, in sunscreen.
Can you imagine skiing in sunscreen? How fast you would go down a mountain?
Yeah, and if you fail, it would actually be an added benefit. You wouldn't have to worry. But it is 5,000 degrees, so you would probably need lots of sunscreen.
Yeah.
So
I imagine you're boiling in sunscreen at that point.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Are we ready to do sports, or do you want one more from the Chiefs corner?
Let's go ahead and go to sports because
big night tonight.
It is a big night. And I want to talk about the playoff rankings for college football. And what I want to do is, since that's coming out tonight, and then it will be updated every Tuesday. They do a special show every Tuesday night, and from here till the playoffs. So, give me your top four, Chief.
In order.
Give me what you predict.
What I predict.
You know what? First, give me what you think. If you were the committee, then give me what you predict the committee's going to do, because that's two different things.
Absolutely. For me, I'm going with Alabama number 1.
Okay.
I'm going with the University of Georgia Bulldogs number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going with the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Okay.
Number 3. And this is my top 4.
I know.
This is my top 4. I'm going with UCF, University of Central Florida, at number 4.
The best team in Florida.
The best team in Florida. Would beat the brakes off of Miami.
If you're a Miami fan, you're not the best team in Florida. Just need to let that go.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, South Florida would probably beat you as well. But what I think the playoff committee will do, I think the way it's going to look, is it's going to be Georgia number 1.
Okay. I'm thinking that too.
That they've beaten 2 ranked opponents. Alabama hasn't beaten anybody that is currently ranked.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia's beaten 2. They've got the good win over Notre Dame.
Yep.
Alabama number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they're going to go with Ohio State at number 3.
Okay.
And Notre Dame at number 4.
So you think Notre Dame's going to jump undefeated Wisconsin?
Yes, because I think they're the better team.
I mean, I agree totally. I don't think Wisconsin's played anybody.
No. Wisconsin couldn't beat UCF.
That would be a really interesting showdown. They're both undefeated still. Yeah, I tend to think I'm with you. I think Georgia jumps Alabama because Alabama beat number 3 Florida State, who's currently not really a football team.
No, they're really ranked number probably 126 at this point.
Yeah, it's really sad. I'm sad. I don't want to delve into that. It's just sadness. But yeah, I think Georgia has to go 1. I think Alabama's 2. You know, I know they knocked off Penn State, but I don't have a lot of faith in Ohio State. I still think they'll lose a game.
Okay, but see, here's the thing that you got to remember. One of the criteria, that's something that is in the rules that they have to use for criteria in making this, is they cannot look at the future schedule. That the playoff committee can't look at the future schedule of these teams just up to this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do believe that the Nittany Lions probably come back, but the loss Saturday puts Ohio State in front of Penn State.
Yeah. And that, you know, basically the AP poll has it right. I really think Georgia jumps Alabama. And I know that will upset a lot of people, but I just think it's the right thing to do.
Well, here's what it does. Is if you put Georgia at number 1 and Alabama at number 2, regardless of who you put in other places, it sets it up so in the SEC championship game, if Alabama beats Georgia, you can keep Georgia in the playoff.
Yeah.
You don't have to drop them out of the playoff. If they're number 2, you probably have to drop them out.
Yeah.
But if they're number 1, you're going to drop them to 3 or 4, and you're going to have 2 teams from the SEC in the college football playoff.
Yep. That's pretty good analysis. I think it's the way it is. It's not the way I want it to be. It's not the way I wish it was.
No, me either.
But I think that's what we're dealing with. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm always excited when we get to Halloween and we start getting the real rankings out. You know, I've really become more of a football fan more so than a Florida State fan this year. I think I've really just bought into the game. And so
you have no choice.
Yeah, I mean, there's, not a lot of game being played where I would like it to be. So
Jim McElwain out at Florida.
Crazy. That I'm telling you, the shark picture is real.
It comes back. The shark picture is absolutely real. Administration found that out. They fingerprinted the shark. I don't know what they did, but it's real. Then he makes the false accusations about death threats, and he's out. Listen, that lie about those false accusations of death threats cost him $9.8 million.
Jeez. The amount of money in college football is just insane to me.
Randy Sanders out. Not out, but there is an announcement that he will not be returning to Florida State next year.
It's an appropriate change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully the first of many.
Yeah, Randy Shannon, listen to this. Randy Shannon steps in McElwain's place at Florida as head coach and immediately turns over the defensive coordinator role to a staff member, and then brings in a quality control assistant to coach defensive line. He's already shaken things up. He's already said he's opening the quarterback competition up. More emphasis on special teams. Why couldn't Sharkbait do that?
I don't know. There's no telling. Listen, there's a lot of crazy stuff that we could talk about. And that's why we're going to be here every week, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to be talking for about 45 minutes with you guys and with one another. Listen, if you've been listening so far live, if you're listening later, we thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Unfortunately, I have to cut it there because we're running up against our time here. But listen, make sure you check us out on iTunes. Make sure you check us out all over the web at Third Podcast. Make sure you're looking up and getting on the Patreon. Make sure you're helping us make this happen. Listen, we really appreciate it. This is fun.
Absolutely.
And we haven't got our times right. We're not fully acclimated to everything. But I promise you the podcast is only going to get better. We can only get better at this as we figure it out. And we hope you'll join us on the journey. You've been listening to Third Thoughts. I'm Clay. I'm here with the Chief. And we'll see you next Tuesday.
We're out.